Mayor Pitts and Director Sheehan from TEMA, and we've just done a brief tour of the flooded areas in this community. There's been flooding and damages across the state in the last few days, but we are here to look at the particularly affected community here. This flooding occurred throughout Saturday, late into Saturday night, kind of peaked out on Sunday morning. There were evacuations and a great effort made to make sure that people were safe. I spoke with the Secretary of Homeland Security beginning on Sunday, confirming our work here in TEMA and local officials, so there's been a lot of coordination with a real focus on making sure people were safe. Wanted to see it with our own eyes today. That's why we're here. In fact, we're going to multiple places across the state and have been, and just very appreciative of what's happened here locally. The effort here on the ground, team from the emergency management folks here to coordinate with TEMA as we coordinate with FEMA. And it's something, unfortunately, that we've become accustomed to, but people did their jobs and people were safe, and we're very grateful for that. So we'll open it up to questions, and for any of the three of us, if you'd like. Yes?
Yeah, what's the latest regarding your talks with FEMA?
Well, they have primarily been communicating with us to let them know if they need to provide any assistance for us. So I've reached out twice, or they have reached out twice to us and said, what do you need? How are things going? Kind of touching base to make sure it's working well. That is where it stands right now. We're obviously still in the phases of understanding the depth of damages across the state in multiple places, but they've basically just been offering to help.
Governor,
yes.
You had a lot of folks here who I spoke with who don't necessarily have flood insurance on their homes, apartments, wherever they live. What kind of state resources are available to them as they try to pick the pieces back up after being hit twice in the last year?
Yeah, I think the first thing that we have to do is assess what's happened on the ground. So, you know, it's difficult at this point in a flood or a disaster or an event to be able to say to a particular homeowner or a group of owners, here's what we have. Here's the answers we have for you. We don't have answers yet. Way too early to know what's available and what's possible. I will say the General Assembly in the special session a couple of weeks ago began to put in place a structure for assistance that when assistance isn't available from FEMA, for example. So there's a desire to find innovative ways to provide for people who have loss, but we don't have those answers right now.
Governor, what did you see this morning? Can you describe some of the situations that you found in your tour?
There's one particular FEMA mapped area that is a flooded area, and it floods more regularly than others because of the topography, because of the the geography of that area, and there's development around it, there's houses around that, and so therefore there is an issue. There's a flood issue with certain parts of the community here. That's what we went to look at.
Were you able to speak to anybody? Were you able to reassure?
No, we didn't speak to homeowners. We just got out, toured the area, looked at it. Most of the folks that are in that community are either not in their home or they're at work. They're away from the home today. So there weren't people in the streets, and we didn't knock on people's doors and bother them. But we wanted to see. I wanted to see with my own eyes just what these communities look like, how they're affected by the flooding, and the mayor and his team, knew exactly where these communities were and took us there to see it.
What was your impression?
I mean, it's difficult anytime you see someone's home that's got water in it, and that's a hardship for that homeowner and for that family, and there are a lot of families just like them. So it's hard to see, but it inspires you to work to make sure that people are safe, to work to make that people are evacuated when they need to be, so.
Governor, when you surveyed the damage, did anything stand out, and will you personally make a request to declare a state emergency?
Well, we have to assess first again. We can only make emergency declarations, or we only make emergency declarations when an emergency rises to the level and there's enough damage that it warrants that. Now, there are things that we obviously do even short of that, and that's what local officials are doing right now. But we don't know enough about the extent of the damages to be able to comment on an emergency declaration. Take one more.
You said this is something people have gotten accustomed to, and we spoke to residents who have dealt with flooding multiple times. Is there anything the state can do to maybe get ahead of an event like this happening again?
I think that's what you look at these events for, is to determine, what really is the cause, have things changed, are there things that we can do that can mitigate damage in the future. It's part of the reason that we come to look with the locals to say, is there something that would inform us for the future? Very difficult to know that right now, but that's why we came to look, so.
Sorry, one more. As the,
Yeah.
floods continue to recede, you can assess everything. There's snow in the forecast, there's single-digit temps in the forecast. How does that play into assessing what happened on the 15th and getting that help to people?
I'm going to let Director Sheehan speak to that. Obviously, we want to be prepared for everything. When we start talking about snow, we talk about TDOT, we talk about our health EMS, but TEMA oversees all of that. So if you'll speak to just y'all's prep for what's to come later tonight.
Yeah, so what we ask is homeowners, apartment renters, whoever, document your damages today. So before the snowfall begins later this week, document the damage that you have today. So take notes. If you have insurance, contact your insurance adjuster. Don't wait for an optimal time. Go ahead and let them know that you have a claim. That'll help us know and demarcate the damages from flooding versus what we might have later this week. So bitter cold. And then if you need assistance, your county emergency management agencies are standing by. On TEMA's website, we're mapping where shelters are and heating centers are. So if someone needs assistance, just make sure someone knows. And Tennesseans, we're Southern, and so check on your neighbors too. So if you're not impacted, we ask folks to check in. But for those that have damage, just make sure you're documenting those damages, cataloging them, and then if we get to certain criteria, certain numbers, we'll evaluate that and make a declaration request as appropriate, in accordance with law.
Mayor, you have a comment? You want to make a comment before we wrap it up?
Yeah, thank you, Governor Lee and State of Tennessee and Director Sheehan for TEMA for being here today. One thing we know about Clarksville, it's resilient. We have a website set up for people who have been affected, CMC Responds, cmcresponds.org. We're asking people to go to that website and register for help, and this help will come in a matter of helping them clean up, and then we'll have funding for restoration as well and helping everybody that we can. So cmcresponds.org. But we're just very grateful, Governor and Director Sheehan, for being here today.
Mayor, a couple folks while I was out there on Alberta Drive, Freestone Drive, they've raised concerns about recent construction possibly playing a role in drainage issues in that area. Are you guys aware of any drainage issues in that area that turns that field into a pond/lake?
Well, I can tell you there's no recent construction that's been going on that turns that field into a lake. It's historically been a problem, and we're looking at ways we may be able to mitigate that, but we can't speak to solutions at this point.
Director, earlier this morning you kind of were giving media availability to kind of explain what the state is doing ahead of the snow. What can Tennesseans expect, say in Middle Tennessee, if they're going out on the roads?
Yeah, so luckily TDOT's been working since yesterday morning at 8 a.m. So they've been pre-treating roads. They're getting their crews set up to be able to go and do route clearance. And you can go around here today too and see the county and city road crews are doing the same thing. So pre-treating, it's not raining ahead of this snowfall event, so that helps a lot. But for folks, before you get out, prep your car, have a kit, so extra blanket, gloves, kitty litter or sand, something in case you lose traction that you can regain traction, and shovel. Those small little preparations make a big difference, and just give yourself more time. So if you have to get out and about, and we encourage folks, if you don't have to, stay home. But if you do have to get out and about, and certainly like I'll be out and about, so I don't want to be, there are things that will make you need to be out and about. So if you have to, just give yourself more time, give yourself lots of stopping distance, and then give these road crews, these plowed crews, these crews that are treating the roads a lot more distance than you typically would, and give yourself a lot more time to stop than you typically would.
That's
Those
all the
things go a
time we
long
have
way.
for today. Thank you for
Thanks, y'all.
coming.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.